Welcome back to ECW CyberSlam episode number 23, kicking off with Paul Heyman making his way down to the ring. Heyman has a piece of paper in his hand, and once he enters the ring, he says that if anybody cuts him off, they'll be fired from ECW. The reason for that is that he is here to promote the upcoming Heatwave pay-per-view, and he has a number of announcements for the card. As well as Rob Van Dam's title defense against CM Punk in the main event, there'll also be a World Tag Team titles match as the Havana Pitbulls make their first defense against Trent Acid and Johnny Cashmere. Homicide will also be in action against Sabu, while Brent Albright will face Loki. There'll also be a Japanese showcase between Mammoth Sasaki and the returning Masato Tanaka. As Paul Heyman continued, he was eventually cut off by Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk, who seemingly didn't care about the threat of losing their jobs. Dreamer then laid down his challenge to Paul Heyman, saying that he blames him for trying to bring down what ECW was all about, and he won't stop until Heyman is out of ECW. Funk also had his say backing up Tommy Dreamer, but making it clear that he wanted Steve Corino at Heatwave. Paul Heyman didn't really have a chance to reply to this, as before he could, Corino, Richards and Stevie Anderson were out. They attacked Funk and Dreamer from behind, throwing Dreamer to the outside and hitting Terry Funk with a pile driver in the middle of the ring. Corino left Dreamer in a slightly better condition than Funk, as they would be going one-on-one in the main event, and he was willing to wait to finish the job. So it's a 61C, a good opening. Happy with that segment to open the show, and we go into the recap package from last week. The commentators talking over footage from the main event. Rob Van Dam and Sabu were outnumbered by Homicide and Loki's Hustle teammates and fell to defeat against two key figures of that group. We then go into the opening match of the night, CM Punk squashing Devon Storm, who was brought in as a local talent. A 75 for CM Punk is really encouraging. It's a good match, but the focus is on the post-match interview. Jade joining CM Punk in the ring. She asks him about the ECW World title match at Heatwave, and he talks about becoming the TV champion and how all he has heard since he got the title is that Rob Van Dam was the greatest TV champion of all time. But during his run, there was one thing that RVD never did. That was to become a double TV and world champion. As Punk continued, RVD came down to the ring, getting in his face and asking him what his problem is. CM Punk showed a more cocky side than he has so far in ECW and put his hands on RVD's title, telling him that he didn't have a problem, but he was coming for the ECW World Championship. Van Dam didn't like that and pulled away, with Punk leaving the ring, smirking as he headed up the ramp. We then get a video package promoting the Hustle. It's just putting over all 6 members of the group, recently expanding to add the Havana Pitbulls to their ranks. The package showed the damage that all of them have done since arriving in ECW and promoted their matches at Heatwave live on pay-per-view in a couple of weeks' time. We then get an impassioned backstage promo from Tommy Dreamer in front of the ECW backdrop. He points at the 3 letters on the wall and asks fans not to lose sight of what those letters represent. Dreamer then continued to speak about ECW and how he was told he wasn't needed anymore by Paul Heyman. The same Paul Heyman who stabbed the men and women who built ECW in the back. The same Paul Heyman who ordered the hit that ended the Sandman's career. The same Paul Heyman who he wants to fight at Heatwave. Tommy Dreamer says that he won't look past Steve Corino and what he did to his mentor Terry Funk, but he warns Paul Heyman, if he doesn't get what he wants, he's going to make Heyman's life a living hell. Going to the second match of the night, this has been a good night for ratings so far. Our C- is D plus C's. Loki defeating Little Guido in what was unsurprisingly a good match, both putting in good performances. In 7 minutes and 38, he hit a Warrior's Way. With Homicide at ringside, we saw during the match Sabu run down and take out Homicide, the two brawling to the back. This left it a one-on-one. Loki still able to pick up the victory. After the match, there was little time for Loki to enjoy the moment, however, as Brent Albright came down to ring the two in a match at Heatwave. Loki hanging out an arm and inviting Brent Albright to try and lock in the crowbar. Albright rejected the offer and made it clear that he was more than willing to wait till Heatwave, but he would be pulling Loki's arm right out of its socket. Breaking up the show, we see Shelly Martinez and Kevin Fertig stood in front of a monitor in the back. It's rated on Shelly Martinez's sex appeal, so she's showing off her assets, while Kevin Fertig stands looking menacingly in front of the screen. Martinez then points at the screen, which begins playing footage from Fertig's violent path of destruction since coming to ECW. Last week, Fertig appeared to re-injure Tony Mamaluke just moments after the FBI members returned to CyberSlam. We then go into that main event. It's a 50D+, it's not good. These two don't do it in the ring at the level that I'd hope. It's an okay main event. Hopefully the angles on the show will help bump us up to a decent rating, but Steve Corino defeats Tommy Dreamer in 13 minutes and 54 with an Eternal Dream. During the match, Stevie Richards and Stevie Anderson both got involved. Terry Funk, too hurt from earlier in the night to even attempt to help him. That interference was enough to secure the victory for Steve Corino. After the match, Steve Corino, Cedric Jansen and Stevie Richards stand tall, Tommy Dreamer laid out in the ring, with Paul Heyman coming to the top of the ramp. Paul Heyman asks if Tommy can hear him and sarcastically asks him to send best regards to Terry Funk, who he hoped but didn't expect to be ready for Heatwave 2006. Steve Corino was ready, and if Funk was there, that match was on. But there's something else he wants to say, and this is a specific message to Tommy Dreamer. If there's any synapses still firing inside of his skull, then he accepts his challenge. The commentators couldn't believe that Paul Heyman was agreeing to a match, but Heyman confirmed it. Paul Heyman versus Tommy Dreamer at Heatwave, anything goes, and if Tommy Dreamer loses, he's fired from ECW and his wrestling career is over. So a 59C rating, I'm happy with that. I was worried it might be in the D pluses or the C minuses. We increased our popularity in 45 regions and continue to put on good shows. Huge announcements out of tonight's show. We've pretty much got the entire card for Heatwave now. The headline being Heyman accepts the challenge of Tommy Dreamer. But if Tommy Dreamer loses to Paul Heyman at Heatwave, his career is over.